Hello, how are you? My name is Kristen Nicole Mann, and I am excited to be back on my YouTube channel with something a little bit different than what I usually talk about. And I want to share lessons that I have from working at a foreclosure law firm for 8 years. I watched the what is it, Federal Reserve cuts today, or um, it was a press conference, and I wanted to share because I'm seeing kind of parallels of what was happening in 2008. That's when started working in that form of law, and I was in the reinstatement department. So I was dealing with a lot of borrowers, phone calls and their process and paperwork and all of that. So I wanted to share a few things today to help someone if they are facing, default in any way, shape, or form, because we do have inflation happening right now. I know a lot of people don't want to admit that, or, some of the information coming out is a little bit loosely based on things of the past or whatever, however you want to put it. But I just want to share what I know. And to say this before I start, this is information purposes only. This is not, I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm giving you maybe suggestions of an experience of from working 8 years in this. And so I just wanted to say that first. So nobody thinks I'm trying to be their attorney or take what I say legally. But I am going to share a few terms with you today to give you more of like some education of what foreclosure is. And I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm just trying to be proactive in having this information out there in case anyone ends up in a certain situation or circumstance that's out of their control. So the first thing I want to go over the definition of foreclosure. It is a legal process that allows a lender to take control of a property and force its sale to recover debt. This can happen when a borrower defaults on their mortgage or other debt, such as unpaid property taxes or homeowners association dues. And I don't think too many people know, like, if you are in like a condo, those fees you cannot default on as well, because it does go along with your mortgage. So that's just a little tidbit in case you are looking for a home, and let's say you want to get a condo and not an actual single family home house, and I said home house, you know what I meant. Condos have extra fees, and then some single family homes have the HOA fees. It depends on if you get it in a subdivision or you get it just the old school homes that are on a street that's not really part of any company. They were built, you know, maybe in the 80s or further back, and it all depends. It's not the new homes that I'm referring to. It's more so older homes that weren't set up to be in community with each other. Subdivisions definitely have HOA fees. And that kind of hindered a lot of the borrowers that I dealt with as well. So let's go on to what I did in foreclosure law. I was in the reinstatement department, and what that entails is I was the first point of contact when the mortgage company hired our law firm to handle the foreclosure. So I would be the person that they would most likely talk to first out of everybody at the firm. And I would have to explain the process they're in. Most of the time they would call right when they got their paperwork. Sometimes they wouldn't call right when they got their paperwork. They would call when a couple of steps have already been processed and they just happen to want to care and act like they didn't know. So in the system, if you're working on the back end, you can see where the process is. So sometimes people would try to finesse and they would say, I didn't get this, I didn't get that. But we were to put a copy of every single thing in the system we had. So if I'm talking to you and you're saying you didn't get XYZ, I'm just sharing with you that they can see everything that you have. They can see all the paperwork that was mailed to your property, or even if you have another address, because sometimes a borrower can have another address on file, but we would have to have a street address. I don't think we sent anything to a P.O. box ever. But I just want to share that with you because sometimes, we do get in our emotions. A lot of people, we do get in our emotions and we want to fight this, entity that seems like it is just hounding us with paperwork and all that. And I don't want to say us because I'm not really, you know what I mean. I'm not trying to um I'm just trying to make you feel like you could get more clarity from what I'm sharing because you can call and act like you didn't get nothing. And then I just want to tell you, they can see everything that they sent. So you can't really get away with that. But the reinstatement department and foreclosure, let me just give you a rundown of what they actually do because I worked in it for 8 years, my particular department, and I was doing the DMV area. That's DC, Maryland, and Virginia. I no longer work there. I have not worked at this law firm or in any foreclosure law in a while. So, again, I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm just telling you from experience. So, if I talk to the borrower, they would most likely request a reinstatement quote. That's where my department came in. And at the time, a little backstory, it was 2008 when I got hired. We had just dealt with the crash, like the end of 2008 going into 2009. That's when things got real. Stuff hit the fan and overnight it felt like everything was different. People were getting laid off. Our firm, a lot of the firms got in trouble because they were doing a lot of things. And at the time, I'm 18, 19. I don't know what's going on. And that was the first time I had to recognize that I wasn't in high school anymore. I was a full-blown adult. I was dealing with and I was in an environment where adults wasn't only working with me, but they were also feeling the brunt of the crash. Some people were dealing with their own woes in and out of work. And even my own parents was dealing with the effects from the crash. It was a crazy time. So being the first point of contact, there was a lot of irate customers or borrowers that were not understanding of language when it came to foreclosure, not understanding how they got to the point they did, not understanding the loan that they had. Um, and I want to get to the first point. Make sure you understand the in and outs of your loan because there were loans that people signed off on that I don't think they read the in and outs or the fine print of. Your the way that your process is going to go, it determines what loan that you signed off on. That's what determines that. If you are on the brink of foreclosure, go try to find your paperwork and read over it and know everything that you signed off on. And also try to keep a great record of the payments that you sent to your borrower. Because then that way, if something happened to where it was a mishap of like the log on their end, someone didn't maybe update their system to say that you sent a payment, and now it's kind of better processes that they have where that is probably going to be very rare now, because people have online, there's way more stuff that could also make, you could see what you've done on that they offer to borrowers. Back then, though, it wasn't really too much of this online stuff in place. It was, but it wasn't to a certain extent. And so a lot of the borrowers that were calling or that had went into default, they were low income. So that's why I say read over what kind of loan you have, because depending on how the federal rates are, you just don't know if you would be able to afford a spike in inflation, or something were to happen with your job. Like, you just don't know, because sometimes it can happen at the same time, like you lose your job and then the rates go up and bunch of dust came. I don't know why. Tissue dust. But that's what could happen. So you want to make sure you have record of every single payment that you sent. And you also have a paper trail of contact to the mortgage lender. And I'm talking about before you get into having to deal with the foreclosure law firm. Because a lot of callers were lost in what they did. Like, they didn't know that this was coming, the crash was coming. So they were more so asking like economy questions and all these questions, and you didn't know what they were gonna ask, really. I got real good training with dealing with all different types of people. Sometimes they would drive to the office uh abrupt, not no forewarning. And if they requested that reinstatement quote, I would have to draft it up while they were there, calculate everything. And I was processing some pretty hefty amounts on the mortgage, sending to the mortgage company. I was like the liaison. So I would be the form of communication between the borrower and the lender. So, but again, here goes the second point. If you go into contacting the foreclosure law firm, do not assume that they represent you. They do not represent you. They represent the mortgage company. So they can only help you with the task at hand of having a reinstatement quote for you. They cannot help you stop the foreclosure. That is up to the lender if they want to stop the foreclosure for you. And then also, if you need counsel, you will need to hire outside counsel, not counsel through the law firm that's handling your foreclosure. That's not that's a big no-no to go into this thinking that they represent you. They do not. So they're not able to give you any legal advice on what you need to do and give you a mediation, because really, even law firms having the mediation department is not for your purposes. It's for being the liaison with the in between the mortgage company and you. But we were hired by the mortgage company. So I just wanted to reiterate that, because I think sometimes we do have high emotions and we do not think clearly about what is what, who is who. We just need help at the time. But I'm seeing parallels happening with what happened back then and what's going on now. And I just want y'all to be prepared. I just want y'all to be prepared because people don't know my economic side, my research side, my law side. Like I do this a lot. All day. You can talk to the people that I talk to every day. I'm always calling my mom. I'm always like, this happened in the economy, da 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 da. And honestly, it was a self-starting type of thing that happened when I was 19 because I did not know all my department got laid off one by one gradually. And it was really dark times after the 2008 crash. I mean, we didn't, as a firm, we really didn't get the ball rolling again until like I want to say 2011, 12-ish. So it took a couple of years for it to feel like it was normal again, if you want to say it like that. But I think what's coming is going to be a different set of circumstances because now we have the credit card bubble. We have people's like cars are being repossessed left and right. That's another bubble. It's going to be maybe worse. And I'm not trying to scare no one. I just want you to be prepared because these are things that are happening in real time. So just be encouraged. But the last thing is if you do reinstate your property, do your best to try not to get in that circumstance again because it is a long foreclosure is a long, well, depending on state, because some states like Virginia, their process is only 30 days, I believe. And let me fact check that now because they might have changed their how long? And I'm not in either state. I'm not in Virginia. I'm not in DC. I'm not in Maryland no more. So I know Maryland takes a long time. They could take, I mean, it was like people in foreclosure for like 4 years. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. So I was somewhat right. I think they extended this, but sometimes we saw in Virginia the foreclosure happened in like 30 days. They said it could take at least 60 days. And then DC, let me see, DC foreclosures were really weird. And when I say DC, I mean Washington, DC. See foreclosures take. Okay, DC was 30 days, but it could take closer to 45 and 60 days. So that's not long. But Maryland would take longer out of those three. Okay, so yeah, they could take 6 to 9 months or longer, but it could be as quick as 90 days. So they were slower than Washington, DC and Virginia. And you need to check your state to see the process. I'm only speaking on behalf of Maryland, DC, and Virginia, but I know Texas, they're a short state. Um, I'm looking up now. What? I'm looking up now because they always change this stuff. Okay. So Montana, Virginia, Texas, Wyoming, and West Virginia right now are the shortest time frames of foreclosure. And I knew Texas was because I used to just look it up and see what states, I was trying to be a foreclosure attorney, but um yeah, so make sure you look up your state and what all that entails because it's every case is different. Every file will be different from yours. But I just wanted to share these things because I watched the press conference today and I'm like, okay, hey, but I have your back, you're good. Take deep breaths. I am going to be back on with some more info. So I hope that this helps. Share this with someone that may be on the brink or just want to watch this for, future purposes. Like this is all to prepare people in case they have a family member that may go through this. They may have a friend that goes through this. It might not be you, but it may be someone else that you know. So you can share this with them. And I hope that this helps. And y'all have a great rest of your day. Talk to you soon.